Hi everyone, and welcome back to the yet another trading diary of the third week of March on silver. This week was perfect on paper, but not so perfect in reality. Let's see what have I done. So first, let's look how my kind of new founded Topstep account, 3 weeks old, is doing. And we can see in TradeZilla that I grow on this account $1,400 and the win percentage is 75%, so that is very good. And the average win to loss ratio is still bad. It's still 0.69. And something that is pulling this number down is that first trade that I done almost at the beginning. It was the beginning. It was the first trade on that account, which was minus $500. But if we'll look more closely and see how I improved this week, we can see that I got $1,000 this week on the account after applying the filters. Trade win was 80%, so that is really good. I had only one loss. In total, only 5 trades, so that is very good. And average win to loss is 1.2. As you maybe remember, as I was saying in the last video, I am aiming to get it to 2. That would be great. And this is the first thing that I really should work on because it didn't went well this week. If we will go lower, we can see our lovely calendar and we can see I was trading only 4 days this week. Wednesday was the FOCM meeting and interest rates decision in US. So I was just mainly observing the markets. I still looked at silver because the trades were 14 hours that I would place before FOMC, so that still didn't have got so much impact. However, I placed only notes of the trades that I was potentially seeing. However, none of the trades met fully my criteria, so I didn't place any trades on Wednesday. We can see also that we're having the time performance and the trade duration performance. So I was placing mainly the trades between 4 and 5 a.m. The trades. However, there was one also at 11:46, so way outside of my trading time. Also, the one around 3 were not necessarily around my trading time. However, I woke up earlier and I was checking how the Asian session is going, and I saw 2 maybe potential trades. However, we can see that those ones are on the lower side. One is a loss and one is just $37 win. And those 2 are taken on Thursday, and I will talk about those trades because that was not such a great day. And the most important thing to improve my win to loss ratio is my trade duration. And we can see that I'm holding between 8 minutes and 33 minutes mainly. And honestly, if I would hold longer the trades, trust my take profit, those would be way more profitable trades. However, I need to get to that point and I need to learn how to hold longer. And what else happened this week on the market is the volatility. Immediately on Monday, I felt that all the trades were not as affordable as last week, and I was having a very hard time finding the setups that were low risk, below minus $400. So that bigger volatility also affected how I was placing the trades and how much more stress and pressure I was placing on getting out of the trades with the profits. So let's jump to Monday. We're having $203 of win, but let's first see what notes have I placed, because that trade I placed at 11:46, so very late, and in the morning I saw some potential trades. However, I didn't take them. So there were a couple of reasons why I didn't take those trades, and the main reason is that it was kind of in a consolidation, the price. I wasn't sure which direction the price wants to go. And also I am, as I was telling you, not so comfortable yet with the bounces. I have a clear rules for the trendline breaks, however not such a clear rules for the bounces. And here definitely we had got a bounce to the T, and I was observing the trade. It was also at 420, so it was before 5, and I wasn't sure if I should have taken that trade because it was kind of outside of my trading time, and the risk was only $270, so super low risk. However, I didn't take it. I was thinking about taking it to the previous day low, and the price literally went down, hit it, and reversed. The second opportunity I had if we would move that trend line obviously above here. However, the risk was too big because that area here, it's $400, and I would try to go short. We had got 1, 2, 3 perfect touch points, and then the candle crossed the trend line, and it had got the bigger volume, which we can see here, and it went down to my take profit, and I think even a bit further down. My take profit was around that level at the previous pivot. So that was also a good trade, but that one was definitely too high risk. And it was also happening at 7:20, so already in this kind of almost half an hour before the London session. And I am not so much into getting the trades, to get into the trades after 7 a.m. because this is just 1 hour before the London Open, and during the London Open, at the moment of the London Open, I don't want to be in any trades because the volatility is coming to the markets, and very often we're having the fake outs. But at the end, the trade that I took was on the trendline bounce, and it was $200 win. And we can see that the price was going down for the whole morning. Then it went up to the previous day low and previous week low and almost touched that line. However, this is not a perfect bounce because it didn't touch the line. It almost touched here, but it didn't fully. And I entered here on the bounce. And this time I was trying to be more convinced after seeing the perfect bounce in the morning. The risk was, I think, $250, so very low risk setup for me. And I was expecting it to go to that trend line here, which was indicating one of the pivots from before. However, unfortunately, the price just went to that earlier pivot here, and it was bouncing from it, and I felt that the price doesn't want to go anywhere further. It's thinking about reversing, and I closed the position. And that one this time was a good shout. However, very often the bounces and the very short moved reversals to the other direction are happening because the trend line is being tested as a bounce, then there is a pullback, and then the price is crossing, which we can see here that it was just a small pullback before the big move. And the next day we are having also silver. This is my biggest win on this account, and we're having $800 win. And we can see that here the price was still kind of in a consolidation. I took again a bounce. We had got 1, 2, 3, almost 4 touch points. However, the 4th touch point was happened after I placed the trade. So the trend line at the beginning was here, and we can see that there was 2nd touch point, and here literally the price was hugging that trend line, and we had got this very strong support resistance. I was expecting that support resistance might be crossed very soon. However, I was thinking at the beginning here, and I was looking at the trades. And then after the bounce, I had more conviction that I can go for an earlier move instead of taking the trade at that level. So it would be that candle here. I took the bounce earlier, and it was a bit stressful because we can see that that trend line of the bounce was crossed 2 times, so I had to adjust it, and I was questioning again that bounce. Fortunately, it went more up, and because it was such a rapid move, I wasn't sure where and how I should close. So when the trend line here was closed, if we'll look further, here was a consolidation zone before, which are marked in between those 2 lines. I decided that, okay, it is within that consolidation, it went up and it's starting to go down. So just secure the profits and be happy with them. And I am very happy about that. I was thinking about maybe moving my take profit to that higher level, but I am very happy how the trade resolved. And that's one of the trades that happened this week, but I was too scared with the other ones to hold because the move is so rapid after the consolidation that you don't know where to put the stop loss. So here I was placing it after the big candle, after the first big candle happened, then after the second one, when the one that I was closing happened, I put my stop loss initially here. Take profit I also narrowed down to $82. However, because it was so fast, I decided to close it halfway and take the profits, because after such a big move up, there needs to be at least some kind of consolidation or the reversal. And on Wednesday, I haven't placed any trades. However, as I was mentioning, I was looking at the charts and still wrote some notes about the potential trades. And the reason why I haven't placed those trades, because they were not so clear accordingly to my rules. So we can see here that there was a trend line break. However, the candle that crossed that trend line wasn't so strong. The next one also didn't have got so much volume. However, the volume was bigger than the previous candle, but it is the undecisive candle here, and it was on the other side of the trend line. So I was not able to place this trade because the candle wasn't pretty. So big body, super small wicks. And the next candle was the winning candle. And we can see that literally the price immediately exploded. I could have a potential trade here and counting that candle as the entry candle. However, though it is a big body, huge volume, the risk would be $800. So outside of my risk. And then we have 1 and 2 and 3 touch point trend line, and there was a bounce, which I was thinking that might happen, but as we can see, the price before was consolidating, so that wasn't a convincing bounce. Also, the candle is not strong, so I skipped that trade. But at the same time, we can see how big volatility is happening here, as last week for $400, I was waiting a couple of minutes. Here you were able to get $400 within 2 5-minute candles. So, and here even 1. So that was way more volatile week. And those trades were around 4 or 5 a.m. And then after, there were 2 potentials around 7 a.m. But again, after 7, I am not so convinced to place trades, so I didn't place it. But here there was a really nice trend line break with the candle. The volume, I cannot say exactly, but here we can see that it is going up. So probably I could have entered on that candle if I would not look at the time, because it was again after 7 a.m. So probably that would be a short-lived trade. The trade I also could have placed because we have got $400 here, so it's above that previous pivot candle, and that would be the first potential entry, and the second one would be on that another candle, and both of those trades were again winning trades. If I'm not wrong, even those ones are the ones when the price completely melted on Wednesday, and then on the Thursday I had a bit of FOMO. And here we are on the Thursday with 2 trades, and you can already see that that was the most emotional day of the whole week, and there were a couple of reasons why it was more emotional, and the main one was fear of missing out. As I was saying the previous day, I saw potential trades for the shorts, and then the short happened, and it was big short. However, I didn't profit on it, and I was a bit sad, and then afterwards the price kinda consolidated slowly. So I was thinking maybe it is reversing to the upside. Maybe actually the price after the interest rate decision will not go any more down because there was not such a big reaction as before the FOMC. But another factor which is very crucial, and this is very important in trading, is that I wasn't having enough of sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. after having quite a nightmare, and I was trying to forget it. And I knew that I cannot fall asleep again because that nightmare will continue, unfortunately. So I decided to just wake up and start my day. Anyway, I'm recently, as you know, waking up around 4:30 a.m. So I was just missing kinda 2 hours of sleep. So that was okay kinda with me. I didn't want to fall asleep for another 2 hours. So I took a shower, I sat down to the computer, and we can see here that the open time of both of the trades is after 3 a.m. And this is definitely not my trading time, as from 4 a.m. I backtested things, 4 a.m. till 8 a.m. I never backtested before 4 a.m., so 3 a.m. And that scared me a bit, especially when I entered to the first trade. Also psychologically, because I was not fully present in those trades, because of the nightmare, I was looking for distractions. I was also binge watching. So yeah, I wasn't fully focused on my trades, and that was a big mistake. Also, because I started earlier, I was thinking, yeah, well, maybe if I will place a trade before 4 or 5 a.m., then I should let myself to have a second opportunity. And I put as my risk in my risk settings the maximum amount of trades for the day too. So Topstep kicked me out after 2 trades. But that opened that possibility of placing another trade after the loss. So we can see that the first trade was a loss, and the second trade is exactly, what is this number? For $37. And I can tell you that I was holding it maybe for 4 minutes only. And that was because when I saw the loss, I wanted immediately to recover the loss. My brain started to think, yeah, I need to recover that loss. I placed the trade. Trade was accordingly to the strategy. So both of those entries were good. The execution after was terrible. But I couldn't afford another loss. So immediately I placed the stop loss to break even. And well, I was kicked out from a very, very good trade. So let's see what happened here. So the first loss is $272, and we can see here that the drop that I was talking about, that I got the FOMO, was here before 1 p.m. in UK. And then there was kind of consolidation, and even around 6:30 here, there was news about interest rates. However, the market didn't react as volatile, even looking at the volume here, as during that drop here. So I was thinking that maybe the price will not go any more down and we are reversing. I didn't have a strong trend line for the downtrend. We can see if we'll zoom that we are having the support resistance zone here. The price was struggling to get through that level and go further. So I was thinking that maybe this is the possible scenario as on Tuesday, where we also had got the support resistance. Also, I entered on the bounce before crossing that support resistance zone, and I had got the way better entry. So when I saw 1 and 2 trend line, touch point trend line, and we had got the third point, so I took the bounce setup again, and this time I was slightly more convinced because I saw that setup happening on Tuesday. Well, not every setup looks the same. So as we can see here, the price went slightly higher and then it reversed. And here the first mistake, which also triggered more that I wanted to place another trade to recover my loss, because I was trailing the stop loss here. So if we'll zoom in, here $215 I was planning to risk at the beginning when I placed this trade, and it was under that pivot candle. And then afterwards I trailed the stop loss still somewhere here, so the loss would be $147. However, I gave the price wiggle room, and instead of even closing under that candle, I decided to close under the biggest pivot of that move and closed here. So, well, instead of having $150 loss, I had a $250 loss. Yay! But I'm not sure if you're already seeing, well, we are having here 1, 2, 3 touch point trend line break. So the next trade I placed immediately, and it was a reversal. And it was this $37 trade that I almost immediately closed. So my mistake was not only that I allowed myself to place only 2 trades, but after the first trade, instead of having $400 of wiggle room that I can lose during the day, I had got only $150 because I had a loss of $250. So that meant that when I entered this trade, okay, the candle closed on the other side. It's very strong, pretty body. The volume is bigger than before one. So the best entry would have been at the bottom of that candle. And the stop loss would have been $400, and that would be that trade. But yeah, because I didn't have got enough wiggle room, I was immediately scared that I will lose those $150 if just after that pretty big candle the price will do a pullback. And I almost immediately placed my stop loss to break even, slightly above break even. And yeah, that ended up with just a small profit instead of waiting until $370 of a win around that previous pivot. And if we'll zoom out, yeah, the price melted a lot. But I'm guessing even if I would kept through that pullback here, then I would probably get out around here and not be able to get through that pullback, as I'm mentally not ready yet for a couple of pullbacks at the same time. And on Thursday, I was so grateful that in Topstep, I can limit myself to 2 trades per day, log the settings, and it will not allow me to place any more trades, because at that point, emotionally, I was ready to place more trades. The amygdala started to say, no, you are on minus, this is a fear, you should place more trades, you should get out of that drawdown, why you didn't stay on the second trade. And that was a lot of fight or flight mode. So happy that, well, Topstep blocked me. I was able to manage my emotions and sit down next day and place the proper trades after 24 hours of not looking at the charts. Because especially, as I'm saying, after that drop, which happened later, I was emotionally drained. And probably if I would not have this personal lockout, so it is someone or something that is not allowing me to place any more trades, I would place another 8 trades or something. And those would be such a bad trades because I would place them, try to get the profits, but don't allow to any pullback at all. So I would immediately be putting the stop loss on break even, which would result in a lot of small losses which would combine, but I would not allow the price to go further up, and even if, I would probably close with the small profits. So that is why every morning when I'm sitting down and trade on Topstep, I'm going first thing to my risk settings and blocking them for the whole day. One trade, $400 maximum loss. If I will cross any of those two, I mean, like one trade I will cross probably very fast, then I'm done with the day. And yeah, allowing myself 2 trades per day made me make such a stupid mistakes as you see. And let's end up on a bit more positive note. So the Friday trade. And here we're having also win $277. However, I closed this one way too fast. I was holding though for 20 minutes. And we can see here, if we'll zoom out, we can see that from kind of 10th of March, we are definitely in the downtrend. However, locally, for last, I think 15 hours here, we were in the uptrend. And some additional thing that I wanted to check, but I am not doing it too often, but this was a great point to do it, is we're seeing that here we're having a consolidation and here the move started. So from here to here I placed the swing, and we can see that we're having 38, 50 and 62% of the swing. Those are the lines. And the price got to 62% and it rejected it. So I was slightly more convinced that we might go short. And also if we look now, because we're looking at 1 hour on the 5 minutes, we are seeing that the price, even at here at the top at 320, it didn't went higher than the top at 140. So this was already the lower high. And then the price locally started to make the small drops, and that trend line here dashed. If we look, that was the perfect trend line from that point when the price crossed the trend line. However, if we look at the volumes here, that wasn't the place to place the trades. And I decided to place it here. And I had a dilemma today because we are having a nice cross of the trend line. We are having a bigger volume. The price closed on the other side. However, the candle, if we'll zoom in more, the candle has a pretty big wick. And I wasn't sure if this is a pretty candle or this doesn't anymore qualify as a pretty candle with a big body. So I waited until kind of the double confirmation. When the price crossed that pivot point on the open candle, I entered here and, well, immediately I got into the drawdown. and I was holding my initial stop loss was above that pivot points, so I was risking $360 maximum. Even if I would place it above those pivots here, it would be minus $400, so that was a good trade, good low risk trade. And then the price went here, started to kind of try to cross this trend line. So I had to adjust this trend line and adjust again and adjust again. As long as the body is not closing on the other side of the trend line, I am counting that this trend line is still a safety line accordingly to the Tory trades. And then we had that push. But you can see that the candle at 5:30 opened here. It pushed to the top, but then it pushed to the down, and it didn't push immediately to the down. It was literally up, down, up, down, up, down. And I wanted to take profits around that level here, support resistance zone, with that wick and those wicks here, which is kind of again on the round number of $73. However, because how volatile was this candle, I started to get very terrified that I will get on the minus very fast, and I closed it too early and didn't allow the price to get down. But this is still a nice trade to end up the week. So next week, I definitely need to work on holding longer, and I was even thinking about taking my mouse and putting it into the drawer after placing a trade and just let the trade do its thing. Because very often I am placing the take profits in the right places, however, I am not allowing the price to hit it. So we will see what I will do with my mouse. And the second thing, I need to be way more careful with the bounces, as I don't have such a clear strategy for the bounces as for the trendline breaks, and just stay with the trendline breaks for now, and bounces only backtest, observe, and see what kind of rules I could create. I hope you enjoyed today's trading diary, and if you don't know what is my silver strategy, here's the video from last week. And if you're curious about the psychology, check out those ones. And see you next week. Bye!